especially Chief Swiffer pulling out that trademark Ari as a last pick. I don't think we're going to see that come out very often in the OPL.
No, I feel like every team's learnt their lesson. Legacy, unfortunately, were on the receiving end of that Ari last week, and I imagine Sutterfield don't really want to give that to Choo-Choo's either, who I'm sure, as a very aware player, student of the game really, has certainly been making sure not to let that through again here. But Legacy, again, taking their time with their last man, going to go with Aurelia, interestingly, as their third.
Aurelia's a blocker pick for some of those champions like Nah. We've actually seen Aurelia start to win those matchups, especially with the succession of nerfs that have come Nah's way. So banning away that really strong top, there's such a limited pool of champions you can confidently play against Aurelia. You know, just a few up there that you can really go for. Maybe the Malphite, actually one of the Oceanic standards, could come out, but you struggle to really get a favorable matchup, and she scales so well, it makes sense to ban her away.
Yeah, and we've just seen, again, lots of no real surprises here, although that might be one there is Sudden Fear ban out Thresh as their final champion.
I mean, Ejim is such a great engaged support. That's really where you want him to be playing, both your team and as a fan, because he just makes so many plays. No one will forget his Alistair from Wildcard right there. So ban away probably the most potent of those champions. Still the Leona, still the Alistair we just mentioned. Plenty available, and that first pick, power pick, comes in.
Yeah, it is Nah, of course, for Legacy Esports. You mentioned has been tweaked a little bit on this patch. Not nearly as strong as he was in previous incarnations, but still such an annoying lane and absolutely beast in team fights as Mega Nah.
And I actually have to credit They've been pretty light-handed with the nerfs tonight. A lot of it's been about his lane harass, you know, that Q that comes in so often, the harass in lane. Make his laning a little bit more painful, because that Mega Knight is still insanely powerful in a team fight.
Yeah, really strong there as well. But you have Sudden Fear already through their next picks as well, really turning up some of the standards here as well. Jana and Jarvan, the J Squared, will be going in for their team.
Yeah, the J Squared, as you mentioned, a really powerful duo right there. So much engage and disengage, and you can kind of round out your comp with whichever you can push in whichever direction you want, right? You have the engage option, you have the disengage option, but they're both so flexible as well in their kits that they provide anything to a team.
Yeah, even Jarvan's sort of a flex pick there as well, so lots of options here for Sudden Fear, but Legacy now really starting to pick quite quickly here. Leona is going to be the support like you thought for Ejim, but it's Kalista here again for Tallywacker.
And Tallywaker's a really aggressive laner, so I can understand the Kalista pick right there, but the two times we saw Kalista last week, especially that first game, of course, the Legacy vs. Chief game, Tallywacker really struggled to make an impact, because if you pick that strong frontline tank, I mean, it could be, of course, this Jarvan. If you stack the armor, you get to that 300, 400 armor stack, and you kind of isolate Kalista away, which, of course, you can do with the Cataclysm. But if you can't break through that front line, Kalista really struggles in a team fight. So it's potentially an aggressive lane, but a risky one.
Yeah, and I think how teams use Kalista tells a lot about how comfortable they are with the pick. Of course, Kalista, a very new champion to the league. I guess with maybe rework Tristana, no one's really gotten a good grasp of her as an AD carry, but we've seen some teams use her when you can get her into the middle of fights and really stack the round up, especially with the Hurricane. Looks great, but like you said, wasn't the case for Tallywacker first adding on Kalista. Curious to see what he does here. At Sudden Fear, they're almost done with their next few picks here as well, and they're going to make some pretty interesting ones here. Going to be a one-tank lineup here against that Kalista. Rumble and Graves are the third and fourth there for Sudden Fear.
Pastry time, let me paint you a story of a team fight right here. The Cataclysm comes in from Jarvan. That's the start of any Jarvan team fight, let's be real. You layer that Rumble ult on top of it, Graves can unload that collateral damage. There's so much AoE from those three picks. They've gone from balanced engage and disengage with Jana and Jarvan to let's team fight all the time.
Yeah, and we kind of talk about Jana as being one of the more reactive, one of the more passive laners as well. Maybe not the case so much with the Graves in there.
No, I mean, you just give him that flat AD that he craves. If he can get into that melee range, get that buckshot in. I mean, the amount of burst damage a level 6 Graves with like 3 points in the Jana shield can do is insane in lane. I'd love to see him go maybe the Youmuu's build right here, just have a bit more armor penetration to supplement that flat AD he's going to have from Jana. It can be a very aggressive lane. You don't say that about many Jana lanes, but definitely the potential there.
Yeah, and you mentioned it already as well as far as teamfight goes. Never mind the Legacy picking up more and rounding out their comp here. Rek'Sai going to still be the jungle here for Carbon. He's been a player that's held on to that. But LeBlanc there, no real surprise there from Choo-Choo's.
Yeah, plenty of pick potential from the mid. Not a lot of champions can really deal with LeBlanc in lane. You might go for that more long-range pick in the Xerath, which is available here. Would again add so much more layers of AoE magic damage coming in from the ult, so I could see that here. You have to play safe in lane, so you do open yourself up to being roamed on by Choo-Choo's, one of the most assertive and strong laners in OCE. So there's a risk there, but it fits the comp. It can farm from the back, you take that barrier, you're pretty safe, so I'd like to see the Xerath, but maybe he has a personal pick to counter that with Bonk, maybe a Galio.
The Galio though. We'll have to see here. Been a while since you've seen old mate Galio, but we'll have to see what they go with. And you call it Bubba Smith, it is going to be his Xerath again.
A boy can dream for a Galio. Maybe when Cassiopeia really starts being common, we'll see the Galio counterpick come out. But I mean, this Sudden Fear comp, it writes itself. You know exactly what's going to happen in team fights. So if you're Legacy, you know what's going to happen from the enemy side of this game. You know exactly how they're going to play it. So it's all about that mid-game pick, getting that control of the dragons. If you ever fall behind to this team, you're not going to be having any objectives on the map.
No, and maybe let's start with our featured matchup here as well. I mean, you've already talked a little bit about the matchup. Xerath fairly safe there, but if Choo-Choos can get aggressive, what sort of damage can he get done there against Xerath? I
mean, look, if you can close that distance on Xerath, you're going to kill him. That's just the reality right there. But Xerath can sit so far back, especially when he picks up maybe that needlessly large rod to go with a Morellonomicon, or probably the Athenes in this matchup for the magic resist. You can clear waves from so long that LeBlanc kind of has to get her roaming done to be able to be impactful in a team fight. Realistically, it's so difficult to take down Xerath because he doesn't really have any reason to get in short range there. I mean, Mimic Distortion covers a lot of the map, but you need to hit that full rotation of spells to get the kill on a heal Xerath. So you're going to struggle to really get the assassination off. But there's always that jungler. That's always the unknown right here. So if we see some really aggressive play by Carbon, anything's possible.
And I think for me, Carbon, of course, a big component of his team as well, makes a lot of the calls and really directs his team, especially in the early stages. I think when trying to characterize Carbon as a jungler, we sort of realize that he's very control-oriented. He likes to set the pace of his game for his team, because if they're set at his pace and he's able to make clear calls and have the rotations all solved, his team looks very strong. And for me, Rek'Sai is an interesting pick for him. It's kind of like a combination between Jarvan and Nunu, I guess.
I was actually gonna liken him to the Nunu, yeah, because he does have that control flavor. If he can ever get that neural network of tunnels down and kind of oppressively on your side of the map, maybe even push into the enemy side of the map, push that vision up. He has so much global pressure right there and can be so ever-present on the map. You know, he naturally builds cooldown reduction. That ult's on quite a short cooldown. You can be really relevant, but there is always that potential with Rek'Sai falling off if you're really held down early. So I can see the potential of the pick, but I'm always waiting to be convinced by Rek'Sai, especially after the few nerfs she's had in the recent patches.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone has really held on to her, it's definitely Carbon, though. He seems to love that champion. Loved her on release, and she was very, very strong. And it's nice to see him sort of bring that through. And that's maybe a bit of Carbon's thing as well. He was once upon a time known as maybe the best Elise player in the region. Taking a little bit of, she's still nerfed, but I still want to play this jungler.
And let's say that he's going to look to pressure that mid lane, because, of course, Apap's so impressive on Xerath, even in a loss against Chiefs, was doing very capably in lane. The danger there is if you overcommit against a Jarvan Xerath, if they can get that lockdown down, you can die there. So they have to be very measured with a LeBlanc-Rek'Sai combination, which, of course, is so great going forward, but defensively, they don't offer so much. When it's a team fight, they're going to be eating Xerath poke.
I think it's one of the things when we talk about control in League of Legends as well. When you're trying to use your pick champions, and I guess LeBlanc will classify here, you want to get your aggressive war downs. I know you love talking about getting deep vision in the enemy jungle. Rek'Sai does enable a bit of that, but how are the other lanes doing for Legacy in terms of being able to push out and actually get some early control on those lanes?
I mean, look, they've got the Nah vs Rumble matchup. If we do see a 1v1 there, traditionally, we see Nah push up very aggressively, be able to put Rumble under his turret right there, so that might open up some space for Rek'Sai to go and put the wards down. But kind of the worry I see is that Rek'Sai doesn't really naturally itemize a side stone. Obviously, you can always pick up a side stone, gives you a bit of cost-effective health, you get those wards down. But Rek'Sai's a lot about dueling, so if she picks up that side stone, you're going to be a bit behind in terms of damage stats. Maybe you won't be able to duel the warrior enchant Jarvan coming out, and maybe you'll struggle there. So she kind of has an identity crisis. That's why, Nunu and Jarvan are about exactly the opposite type of jungler, right? So if you're trying to split the difference for there, something's got to give one way or the other. If she really focuses on the control items there, the Rek'Sai, then maybe that will be enough to get those mid-game objectives. But if she falls behind early game with a side stone, we'll never be able to outduel the Xerath and Jarvan combo.
Yeah, and I think Pink Burmy's been quite impressive to me, especially on Jarvan, and seems to be one of his pet champions, Rengar, as well. So curious to see how that jungle matchup goes, like you envision. But maybe moving down to the bottom lane just a bit before we get into the game. We didn't quite mention it yet, and of course we'll bring it up throughout the evening as well. But Legacy have had a recent change. If you guys have been following this team last year, you'll recognize all these names. They'll be quite familiar to you. But there's been a bit of a swap in roles there as well. Of course, Kardrin and Tallywacker have swapped. So Kardra's moved up into the top lane, and Tally's come down bottom. I really want your thoughts on this dual lane matchup, Papa Smithy, because Graves Janna seems very good into Kalista to me.
Well, look, Tally's brought that aggressive carry top flavor to the AD carry role. So far we've seen Kalista, fairly short range carry, especially hopping around, potentially getting in less than the 550 range, and Graves, of course, a very short range carry, but focusing on the burst damage right there. So he's definitely brought that flavor right there, but you have to be so careful with your positioning as Kalista against a Graves, just because you do have that potential to eat burst if you just, you can't cancel your auto attacks. So if you commit to moving forward and then something changes very quickly, for example, the Janna Q comes through, you can eat a huge burst of damage, and of course doesn't have the best stats right there. So It's definitely an all-in lane. They've got the Leona support, so it's definitely going to be Leona going in and Kalista trying to get that burst of damage. You can see the potential with the Ren coming through and the Leona passive, but it's so risky against a lane that lanes well, and then you've got Janna in the late game for the disengage.
And it's funny to me that you mentioned Brawler and his disengage Janna here as well. Brawler, I believe, is basically exclusively played disengage as support, so Nami, Janna, those types of picks. We've seen Ejim on Janna before, but it seems like it's just something he's not as comfortable with, because you mentioned his Thresh. It was banned away here out of respect by Sudden Fear, so it's nice to see him on something a bit different here in the Leona.
And it makes sense to go with, say, the Leona over maybe the Alistar, just because you have so much burst damage potential in the bot lane. You can get ahead of this Graves, and if Graves ever falls behind in lane, he'll struggle for relevancy in the mid to late game. He needs to get those kills. Not necessarily a snowball AD carry. He just kind of has a really strong peak in the laning phase and then falls away towards the late game, just when the range, especially at poking turrets, is a problem. But that's the best time for Xerath to step up and be that control mage he can be from long range.
Well, we are almost into the game now. So remember, both these teams really hunting for points. We are going to get onto the Rift now. So Legacy and Sudden Fear will play that next round of OPL games here to open things up here for another fantastic week of Oceanic League of Legends. So Legacy over on the blue side, Sudden Fear over on the red. What are we going to see here at level 1, Papa Smithy?
Well, we've seen a lot of defensive fanning out during the OPL so far. I'm really holding out hope for the really aggressive invades for Vision right there. We've only seen that once during the LPL so far, but it actually proved very, very effective right there. So I'm always a big fan of spotting those lane rotations, but if I was a betting man, I'd probably say just some defensive fanning. Yeah,
and we do see that here as well. Everyone's sort of spreading out among the 4 main jungle entrances. So just going to be some trinket wards here. We've got 10 yellow trinkets, of course, in all those inventories. So looks like Ejim's going to put some wards back. Brawler and Ejim actually having a bit of a visit there in the jungle. Carbon and Pink Permy will do the same, and just some early wards down to make sure we know where the junglers are starting. Always good to get that early vision, especially in this particular jungle.
Yeah, and you'd always want to get the early vision on the more aggressive pathing junglers. So, for example, you'd expect Jarvan to be looking to influence his lanes a little bit earlier. So if you can make his route predictable, if you know, okay, starting red, predictably is going to go down to blue, I mean, there's always the potential for that level 2 gank. But if that's your mindset, then definitely get that aggressive wards down and try and spot that Jarvan to just get some more predictable movement.
Yeah, we can see Papcher as well, just kind of cruising by a Legacy blue ward there as well. Nice lane ward there from Chuchus, just to spot out any potential early movement that would aggressively go through the lane. But he'll return now with his LeBlanc into the mid lane, and we'll kick things off. It looks like the jungle's going to start on the Gromp in the blue there for Sudden Fear, and it's going to be the same on the other side there for Legacy.
Actually, it looks like there is potential for both of the bot lane combos to pick up an early camp. I mean, Legacy have now committed to it, but Graves Janna predictably going to come straight into lane. We'll see how many minions they lose in the break.
Yeah, never mind. Pink Bummy tricked me. He's actually up towards the top side of the map. They're going Krugs into red, so going to free up that space for his dual lane, like you mentioned. Of course, Carbon going to be pretty comfortable here doing his own buff, and Pink Bummy could potentially go for a level 2 with that early red.
And one of the things I'm starting to learn about Kalista in a 2v2 lane is that because she can skill rend at level 1, she actually is able to aggressively push pretty hard, even against a Graves Janna combo. Right now, she is getting pushed in. Graves wants to play this lane from the front, but she does have that counter push, at least in the early lanes.
Yeah, Kalista's 1-2 does give me a bit of that old school Twitch expunge.
Sure.
That we used to see back in the day. I mean, it doesn't happen anymore, but certainly we've seen from Tally especially a bit more aggression, like you mentioned.
I mean, you just want to control the wave and keep it away from your turret. That's the standard in the bot lane right there. So if you're getting aggressively pushed in, the enemy jungler has more options. So unless you can really communicate that early gank, unless that's already in your playstyle, can really struggle.
Yeah, so some good last hitting here by Tally and Ejim down towards the bottom. Just want to make sure they're collecting all that CS, and Tally actually up to a very small lead there in the bottom lane. So things going well, even in the mid there, as although Paps got chunked down very low by Choo-Choo's. Oh, actually, my Dyke does use the heal there, Ignite ticking, but Paps will live, but that's not a good start to your Xerath LeBlanc lane.
And that's not what we would have expected after we saw him do so well in that Azir matchup against Chiefs. He was actually doing very comfortable in that lane, but to lose your heal so early, be forced back and give LeBlanc lane control, she's able to hold the wave where she wants. That's a big early advantage for Choo-Choo's.
Yeah, and we talk about this being our featured matchup, Choo-Choo's. I think playing at his best when he's able to be aggressive and make big plays and, you know, go deep at Carbon down the bottom, actually looking for a gank here down the bottom potentially. So we'll see what he does get done here. Inframan and Brawler have to be careful. Oh, the in-play does go wide. The knockout will come through. Q will defensively come in onto Tally. So a bit of damage there, but just a bit of poke back and forth. Carbon, just a bit of pressure, but no Summoner's burnt by Sudden Fear.
And when the engage failed from Leona right there, when she didn't hit her either, we're going to always have a good damage trade, but of course not quite the all-in they might have been looking for.
Yeah, Ejim again going to fish for that Zenith blade, but Tally going to, you know, kind of keep an aggressive posture here in the lane, maybe threaten Carbon back down towards the lane. Again, and Sudden Fear going to play passively while they wait for the jungle. See where he ends up next.
And you have to feel like Ejim's played his hand a little bit here with the Ignite pickup. You know, we know that he's looking for that aggressive all-in. It was actually Crepo back in the day that loved the level 2 all-in with Ignite, right? There's so much burst damage and mixed damage coming out from the Leona.
Yeah, but Infermoon playing this calm here on the Graves, getting us CS back out onto turret as well. Things will even up there in the bottom. And looks like towards the top, Cardred has gotten aggressive quite early on here, now transforming into Mega Knight, I think for the first time, possibly the second in the top, and does have a small lead here against Rumble.
And we're watching here, though. Bomey's coming in.
Yeah, Bomey's going in. Good bounce there for Cardred, just dodging the flag and drag knock up.
Yeah, so 2 unsuccessful ganks so far, 1 from each jungler right here. If it is an early passive laning phase, you'd have to say it favors Rek'Sai just because she can AoE down her camps and really scale up to 6 when she's ever present on the map. But Jarvan's keeping it even in CS so far, of course. He's gone and poked his head out. He's a couple behind, but he'll catch up.
And I think some of that early game mentality for the jungle sort of reflected in the items here as well. We've already had the Trailblazer picked up by Carbon, but Bomey's going to opt for the Chilling Smite and a bit more CC.
And we can see from the flashing health, some very low members down bot. We can see him going in top.
Trouble, good knockout there coming through in the mid. Chuchu's going to look to chase him, but no more damage left. Perhaps though, or someone is blown. The next time Chuchu does that, that's a dead Xerath.
Absolutely. I mean, the first time was that solo blowing of the heal. Now losing the flash as well. Potentially has to go out of lane if he doesn't have enough potions right here. Perhaps is actually getting heavily pressured by Legacy.
Yeah, and he is keeping up in CS, which is nice, but if he keeps leaving that lane, like you mentioned, things could go bad very quickly. Now, Infermoon down the bottom as well. Been maybe the result of a bit of an all-in, although all summon is up for both of the duo lanes here. So just some aggression here for Legacy, getting the max value out of their early Leona Kalista.
Yeah, just really trading very well on the bottom lane. That time the Zenith Blade did hit, so there was the really big burst of damage. Not enough to take it down, didn't even go for the kill secure with the Ignite. But all of Sudden Fear's laners, at least in the mid and bottom lane, are having to play on the back foot.
And you could see there as well, Pink Bomey going to clear out a tunnel there that Carbon put down. But Carbon getting very aggressive, putting down a ward to maybe spot the red buff coming back up. Either just looking for information or maybe looking to pressure for some counter jungling.
Yeah, he's trying to equalize pressure right here with the warding because, of course, he's gone for the early Rangers Trailblazer. His first instinct is going to be to farm these camps. But if he can at least relieve some pressure with those wards, that'll be super helpful for his team.
Yeah, we can see Chuchu's, oh, never mind, Infermoon getting tagged in the bottom, and Tallywhacker going to go in there. The exhaust is going over. Infermoon uses his flash. Brawler going to get low there as well, and just take a couple spears to the back, and again, great pressure by Legacy.
Yeah, and this laning advantage is going to be reflected in the CS in the bottom lane before too long. It's already 10 CS against the Graves right here, having to shop, going to have the wave pushed in, going to be significantly behind in CS. Tallywhacker's aggression is really paying off in bot.
Yeah, and you can, as you mentioned, that CS lead already ticking up now at 10 and going to count as that wave will crash on the bottom lane. Chuchu's again, nice dodger out of the stun. They're using the Mimic Distortion. And perhaps still feeling the pressure here without summoners, even though he does have a chance. Things could go wrong very quickly.
A complete summoners up for the LeBlanc right here. And Bomey's, unfortunately, those unsuccessful ganks are causing a lot of trouble. We're in top, we're seeing a huge burst of damage.
Yeah, Christmas trees and Carter going at it. Carter uses his ulti, popped him into the wall. Christmas trees will get away there, but it's very low, and all the Legacy laners don't need Carbon this time. They're just applying pressure on their own.
Yeah, this is just a completely different game to what we expected in week 1. There's been so much strength of all the laners coming out. Now Bomey has to flash defensively as well.
Yeah, knockup comes through. Ejin going to follow through with a Zenith Blade. Paps around the Psychic Orb, but that damage is absolutely massive, and Carbon gets first blood.
But the roam timing from Ejin was so wonderful right there. Freshly shopped, first completed purchase was the boots and mobility. You can see exactly what his mentality was. Successful gank comes up.
Going to go in for the Dragon there as well. And Legacy, with both the top laners being pretty heavily pressured despite the teleports, no one else can come in here. A strong 4v4 in for Legacy. And that's going to be a very swift Dragon just over the 8-minute mark.
And look, it's so aggressive to go without the Sightstone first purchase as a support in competitive play, especially starting off with that. The mobility boots betrayed the hand, but now in the bottom lane, actually, Moon's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, actually getting chased down by quite a few people, it seems like. The card will back off Moon, though, as you mentioned, in trouble, and Chuchu's with their own picks up a kill.
It should have been predictable for Sudden Fear right there that the Dragon was being taken. They had no wards in that situation, so for them to be able to come in so aggressively and pick up another bonus kill right here, this game is quickly snowballing out of control for Legacy.
Yeah, and Chuchu's really kind of started things off being that aggressive, proactive player that we know he can be, and everything's just going well for all of the lanes here. I mean, as we said, Carbon doesn't really need to do anything, but he's doing what he needs on Rek'Sai. He hasn't gone for the Sightstone, but his pressure and vision control has been very strong in the first 10 minutes.
And the scary thing there is that if the lanes are winning straight up, allowing Rek'Sai to farm, she scales so well with items, can get that cost-effective first damage item, whether it's the Warrior Enchant or maybe even go for a really expensive kind of bonus choice like the Trinity Force. You need to supplement it with the tankiness. Doesn't have to be a strong team fighter because his team's doing so well. Sudden Fear's comp's all about grouping. They really need to start getting grouping, but they have to have the items to support that grouping first.
Yeah, and Legacy have got themselves 1,000 gold lead already. Carbon just going to brush by a pink ward, but Thinks it's a little too dangerous with that. Choo-Choo's really in the mid lane to try and take the order out. So we'll note it for later, possibly Kira. I'll take the Scuttle Crab here instead. Choo-Choo's actually a little bit behind on CS after that. I'm catching up now as Paps has a small lead by about 10. EGM roaming still as well on the Leona, looking for a few more kills. And Emphamoon has been feeling a little bit scared on this Graves.
But CS-wise, he's not fallen behind too much. And that's kind of something I can say to complement all the Sudden Fear lanes right here, is that we've seen the flashes being blown. We've seen the trades going in the advantage of Legacy. But I mean, look at the CS in mid lane, for example. 11 CS advantage for Paps in the mid lane. And only about 7 in the top lane, even though it's a favored matchup for Nah. Credit to Sudden Fear. Their mechanics are definitely on point today.
Yeah, but Choo-Choo's and Carbon coming in towards the top. Christmas Tree's not a whole lot of health bar there. Does have his flash and his ulti, but this is going to be a pretty epic dive. Carbon just waiting at Christmas Tree's going to go in toward. Does find it, but that's a little too late, and Choo-Choo's gets another kill.
Not sure what to say about the face check right there. He wasn't really under any imminent pressure, so there was no real need to follow that Garen paradox and check out what was in the brush. It was 2 people, and he paid his life for it.
Yeah, he did indeed there. And 2 kills for Choo-Choo's in this mid lane does give Pap a little bit of time to find. He's actually getting quite a decent lead. Really wave clearing down with that blue buff. But Choo-Choo's will catch up pretty quickly and more problematic for Paps. He does have his summoners back, but Choo-Choo's can get very aggressive now.
But the thing that's really significant about Xerath in this matchup, and why Xerath is so strong in the meta right now, is he has such oppressive range that even though he uses his Q and he won't take down the minion wave, the cooldown's so low that, and the range is so high that he can sit back safely and push it again almost instantly after that. So you have so much ranged wave clear. Even against Assassin, you can't hold the lane against a Xerath because he'll just push it out from range.
You know, we've seen that constantly with Choo-Choo's has been roaming, but he's certainly been getting good things going for his teams back down the bottom as well. Tally and EGM back on top in terms of CS. Graves going for quite a lot of flat AD early on.
Yeah, I imagine he's still going to be working up towards, I guess, an Infinity Edge with that build right here. I mean, he doesn't have the parts for Yoma's Ghostblade at all right now, and in the mid lane, Carbon's just trying to buy a bit of time right here. The big shots come through. The Athenes is finished for LeBlanc. But at this point, Paps needs someone to relieve that pressure in the mid lane.
Yeah, top tower's going down there. So Cardred really getting aggressive with the now. Already has a Hex Trinket and a Ruby Crystal done, plus his boots. Once a Christmas Trees, who's falling a little bit behind on CS, about 15 behind right now. He's going to keep getting bullied in by this time. That's one of the issues. Nah, very good at bullying in Mini Nah and great at fighting in the Mega Nah as well.
And the big issue here is that despite the fact they have very good 2v2 skirmishing when Jarvan shows up at a lane, Bomi just hasn't been able to get the map pressure off right here. 0-1-0, just farming his jungle comfortably right here. And his laners are paying the price for it. Legacy have been able to aggressively push in all 3 lanes, even taking down an 11-minute turret in top. And unfortunately, Bomi's been nowhere to be found.
And I think you just saw Choo-Choo's there on your screen. A lot of the aggressive deep warding that Legacy have been able to do with all of their lanes being aggressive has really kind of stifled Bomi's early jungle attempts.
He's just got the completed warrior right here. And kind of the worry is that if Choo-Choo's catches him in a rotation in his own jungle, he'll die instantly to that LeBlanc burst.
Yeah, I like that Bomi has gone for the skirmisher saber again though. So much more aggressive. That applies the debuff, I believe, that does true damage on hit. So kind of the old school jungle Warwick item, if you will, when that was first sort of came out in the jungle was previewed. Actually, both of them have swapped in for it. So we've actually swapped around the early jungle items here. Oh, Choo-Choo's still getting onto Paps in the middle. Good snare will lay him down. Carbon actually moving in as well. Does pop in with the Praise Seeker. Goes forward there. Q might be enough there. Ignite ticking away as well. And Paps does go down for the 3rd for Choo-Choo.
Dies to the last tick right there. And of course, with Dragon up in a minute, they're going to get the exclusive vision. But the fight continues in bot.
Yeah, Emphamoon in trouble. Legion pops the ulti, but Pink Boom is here already. The ulti actually kind of leaves Legion in a bad spot. He's trapped in the catacombs. But Kalista ulti will move him out. Cardred's porter down in the bottom as well. And he's about to transform. Tally gets the first kill. Emphamoon could be in trouble. Cardred just whacks Brawler into the wall, then wallops him into the ground. Emphamoon though does take out Egypt, and he's going to fall instead to Rek'Sai, and that's a good trade there. 3-1 overall Legacy.
Yeah, massive win for Legacy right here. The Dragon's not up yet, but they're going to get the aggressive push in bot. They have the first rotation to the Dragons. They'll get all the wards down they need. Big rotational wins for Legacy, and a huge gold lead already at 13 minutes.
I mean, it's a bit early to take the next Dragon here, given that it is 30 seconds away, and Sudden Fear will be back to the lanes, but maybe just after all that aggression, psychologically, Sudden Fear just won't want to contest.
Well, the thing is that even if you pick up kills 30 seconds, 40 seconds away, but we'll go to a replay first right here. And so, of course, they have so much damage coming out from Emphamoon. The disengage is important here, but the teleport is the really big story right here. Cardred so close to Mega Now. That's the big thing right here, is that he's managed his rage so well that he's able to just completely zone this fight right here. Even though Sudden Fear had group members, they all had to disperse. They did not want to eat that grouped Nara ultimate, and the result was a team win for Legacy.
Cardred going in now into the mid lane as well, just trying to be annoying there on the Nile. Looks like Hurricane has been done by Tally. Went for a quick double dagger after his Vampiric Scepter. So kind of the standard Callisto build we see when you do want to go for a quick Hurricane. And Legacy are already on top of this next dragon. It's going to make it 2 very quick ones.
Yeah, there are no wards whatsoever in the area. They actually had the scouting W coming out from Callisto for even more vision right here. Janna's around to poke ahead, maybe get a rough timer, but nothing more Sudden Fear can hope for.
Yeah, so strong objective control here for Legacy, getting themselves a very nice lead early on in this game. It's 3,000 gold and counting now, 6-1 in kills, and of course the only turret in the game down in the top lane, felled by Cartridge. So Papa, while we have a bit of a break, I did want to ask you, what do you think of these jungle items? Because we're starting to see players actually transition, because you get the exchange, for free now.
Yeah, the Skirmisher Saber is a really interesting pickup. We've seen, Bomi must really value that item because he started with the Chilling Smite and then transitioned into the completed Warrior here with the Skirmisher Saber. There's a lot of potential damage and, of course, damage negation as the target you mark does do 20% less damage. So maybe it's just the flavor of getting on top of that enemy AD carry, doing extra damage to him, just trying to reduce his damage. So it makes you more implied tanky in a 1v1 trade, which, look, if Jarvan can get a lot of armor, he already does good base values right there, and negating some of the AD carry's damage can only help.
Good stuff to see as Carter popping back into the top. Legacy will take another turret down towards the bottom. Infermoon and Brawl are going to move in. They have to farm pretty carefully here because that Hurricane just fast pushes those waves, and any sort of extended exchange especially, Ejim and Tally have to have an advantage in that lane now.
We did see the teleports come into bottom though, base time.
Yeah, could have some problems there. Chooch is pushing him out. Infermoon though does get the kill on the Tallywhacker. Just off screen there. And you can see Christmas trees has come down there as well. Ejim could be in trouble, looking to get slowed down by the Rumble Q. And importantly there, that's the order you want to kill a Kalista base laning. You want to get Kalista first.
Absolutely. Deny CS from her. You can control the waves so well right here. They're picking up the kills here, Sudden Fear, but I like this movement across the map right here. They need the rotations.
Looks like Brawler actually going to move in now as well. Ult does come through there. Chooch is actually going to get the kill. Janna a little too far forward, unfortunately. Christmas trees will rotate in as well. Ejim going to posture aggressively, but bit of an awkward roam there for Sudden Fear. Yeah,
they went for the aggressive roam right there to pay off the kill, and that's kind of the issue, is that both the kills that Legacy have picked up, they've managed to transition to big objective. Those 2 dragons already being down, but Sudden Fear, they're overextending a bit to pay off the kills they're picking up, and unfortunately they're just giving away kills in response.
Yeah, so they have picked up a few more kills, but still quite behind in gold here. 5,000 gold up now for Legacy and the 2 turrets. They've really had the lion's share of the objective control. I love this from Carbon as well. Going very aggressive, not just the Skirmisher Saber for the jungle item, but moving into a quick Trinity Force now as well.
Yeah, both of the solo laners also actually going for some cost-effective early stats right here. The Sunfire Cape coming out from Khajiit right here. Usually I'd say that item on Gnar is a problem because, of course, it delays your Randuins, which is such a big part of the item build of a Gnar. But to get the early Snowball Sunfire Cape for a bit more damage, the Rek'Sai Trinity Force to double down on damage, they're trying to end this game early.
Yeah, it looks like it. Here with the way they're playing, it's not super surprising. I have a trivia question for you there, Papa Smithy. Does it help with Rage Generation?
Does it help with Rage Generation? I have to think that's auto and ability based, but I don't have a 100% answer on that one. I'm going to say no.
Okay, well, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll find out in the break. We do have a quick pause, of course, so she'll be back into the game shortly. But that's a fun one. It's kind of very narrow in its application, but might make a little more sense. We sometimes see the item on now.
And it's one of those things where even across the top of competitive play, it is a pretty common pickup. So that'd be an interesting synergy right there, but I don't hold the answer to that one.
We'll see if someone has learned something today. Maybe I taught you something for once. That'd be very rare here. But as we said, very strong performance early on for Legacy. This is really the sort of play we expected from them, even in their first game against Chiefs last week, where they just looked a little more passive than we're used to.
And they're paying to the strengths of their comp, and they understand what Sudden Fear want to do. Sudden Fear want to group and fight at Dragon. Remember, they have the Rumble Jarvan combo. They even have the Disengage of Janna as well. They have pretty much the picture-perfect team fighting composition, I'd have to say. And they just haven't had a chance to do it because it's been those picks. We said, all right, they've got that the LeBlanc in the mid lane. His power is going to be able to try and push out the lanes, and if not, just get out there and snowball some objectives. And they managed to pick up the aggressive picks. The vision needed to pick up dragons, and now 2 dragons. The 2-dragon snowball here is massive, especially against a Rumble comp. To have that in your pocket as a pick comp means that you're the one that are first to get the pink wards down. You're the one to first move forward the vision. They're setting themselves up for a victory here, Legacy, but it's still difficult. One time, when we finally see those AoE ultimates laid down perfectly, it's going to be massive for Sudden Fear.
Yeah, and Sudden Fear, as you mentioned, just haven't quite been able to put together. Paps as well, certainly struggling a bit here against Chooch. He's 4-0-2 early on for that LeBlanc, which is pretty insane as far as early scores go. And, you know, you mentioned it's a lot about Xerath respecting LeBlanc's range and LeBlanc trying to get in there. And Chuchu's right now not just been able to get in and do a lot of damage early on, but he's been roaming very effectively as well.
Both the mid lane and top lane have been playing super, super aggressively. Like we saw Chuchu's blowing that heal at level 2. Then, of course, the successful gank came through. They've been really trying to put it to these solo laners. I mean, Nah took the turret in top lane about 12 minutes into the game. So they've been pushing very aggressive, and they haven't been punished by the Jarvan. So much skirmish potential, so much great ganking potential coming out of a Jarvan, but Bombi's kind of been an onlooker, and we've actually seen more pressure coming out of Carbon on that Rek'Sai.
I mean, you mentioned the vision control, though, for Legacy. Is that mainly just an attribution to, you know, Legacy having strong control and being able to play aggressively because they have that vision?
I'd say that they had a proactive plan this game to get picks, which makes sense with the champions they've chosen. But you know, when we see the flavor of warding they've been putting down, when LeBlanc is aggressively warding the Jarvan's red buff, you know, going into the enemy jungle without a care in the world and being able to put down a ward with the red buff, it kind of tells you the flavor of this game so far. They're looking to this Jarvan as free kills rather than a really strong force.
Yeah, well, Sudden Fury are grouping up, going to get their first objective of the game here as they will take out the mid turret for themselves. So a nice little rotation will give them a bit of an edge here as they kind of move to close that gold lead that Legacy have built up early on here in this one. It's not all bad news as well. Enfermin has picked up his first item here with the Infinity Edge, so going to start to really dish out that DPS, and I assume he's moving into a Yomis with the double longsword for a Brutalizer.
You see this Sudden Fury team walking over a blue ward so aggressively positioned right here, just outside their blue buff. And that's kind of the flavor of the vision. It's all aggressive vision coming in for Legacy. They're playing this game from the front. They're waiting for Sudden Fear to engage something because they're going to have predictable movement all across the map.
Yeah, all the lane aggression, though, that Legacy have been able to put out, really not helping the grouping plan for Sudden Fear. You mentioned that picks are going to play a big part here, and the warding's certainly done that for Legacy, but the fact that they've been able to get ahead in all of their lanes mean that Sudden Fear, with so much pressure in all three areas of the map, it's just so hard for them to actually get together as five.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the early path for a pick team, is to take out all the outer turrets and push up your vision into the enemy jungle, and that's completed to a T for Legacy.
Yeah, really strong start here as well. So looking good here early on in this game as we elapse just towards the 19-minute mark. Dragon back in a minute 40 there as well, and the first Baron going to be up in a minute 15. So lots of fresh objectives about to respawn on this map as well. And Legacy, honestly, this was always a sign for me when a team felt very confident in the game, where they just never bothered to group and just stayed in their lanes pushing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been doing so well in the laning phase. Why not double down and extend the laning phase even more aggressively to the second turret, because they're not getting punished by any rotations from either the jungler from Sudden Fear or any teleport plays. There was the one in bottom lane that was successful, but no objectives picked up from that. And you can tell from the item builds right here, to go for a Snowball Trinity Force here tells you how far ahead they think they're. They're not even worried about a Aegis against a double AP Rumble comp.
They're just going to get aggressive and sort of jump on Christmas trees there, give them a bit of the old wallop and move on there. No ulti they use by Carter, wants to save it for the next Dragon fight. We'll have to build up some rage in the next 50 seconds. We've already seen got fairly strong rage management there on that champion, so we'll see what that happens. I believe Chuchu's has some gold to spend, is going to recall now to make sure he's in time, but you saw that creep wave in the mid melt earlier to mimic distortion. Chuchu's now with a death cap done as well. That's a very strong timing for those two items.
Yeah, and the moment that Chuchu shows up, but realistically even earlier, the pink wards really need to start coming onto the map for Sudden Fear. Against a pick comp, having exclusive vision is so important because it tells you the parts of the map you can freely go to and clear camps. They know that they can get, for example, to their Raptors if they have a pink ward around that area, but they don't have a pink ward on the map at all right now, and that is a big problem against a hugely fed LeBlanc.
I mean, unfortunately getting a bit strangled for vision here, just in general by Legacy. They've started moving their pink wards up kind of further and further in towards the enemy jungle here, and Legacy going to group up. Ejim even sweeping here, hoping that someone walks past so he can get a free kill.
Yeah, there's so much pick power coming out of Leona and LeBlanc all by herself, let's be real. So there's a lot of aggressive wards coming down. First pink lets them get to their blue, but it looks like another dragon's going to come down for our Legacy.
Yeah, Taylor, if you're going to use the Sentinel just for a bit of extra vision, Ejim actually goes in early there, wants to go in on top of Paps. A good job, but Chuchu just jumps in there and blows up Moon.
Just a huge amount of burst, but the fight continues.
Yeah, Christmas Tree's going to get jumped on next. Carbon gets the next kill, but Chuchu's doing so much damage on this LeBlanc. A good knock up there by the Rek'Sai. Tally's going to get the next kill. Ejim finds Paps with the Zenith Blade as well. The snare lands, the stun goes in as well, and that's going to make it 4 straight for Legacy.
Hey, Shaitan, we never mentioned the synergy is in the mid lane. We see the final kill, the ace at 20 minutes, but what synergy between the Kalista ultimate and, of course, Leona. Sometimes she can't close the gap, but if you can always get in melee range or into solar, to E range right there and have the Solar Ferris just continued lockdown afterwards, Man, there's so much damage coming out of Legacy right here in the mid-game. The mid-turret's going to pay the price.
Yeah, T2 turret gets melted there, and you mentioned Kalista Leona. It's almost just nice as well. Leona, we always mention as a very all-insider champion, very good at going in. Kalista gives you the very rare option of going out again.
Absolutely. I mean, you can even survive after those engagements, as you point out. And it's like a Kalista anti-lane, but almost more aggressive, because the Leona, of course, has to be in melee range to get a lot of her CC off. But easy to do when you have Kalista to help you in there.
Yeah, you can imagine if Egypt does get ulted out of a fight, he's probably springing himself back in the thick of things as well. Trinity Force now done for Carbon as well, so he is absolutely massive on this Rek'Sai. 4-0-5 actually, been a recipient of quite a lot of gold here on the Legacy side. He's done very well with it.
And again, it's such aggressive itemization across the board from Legacy right here, and Sudden Fear, they just never managed to layer their ultimates perfectly, and that's kind of the downside of AoE team comps. It's why we don't see so many of them these days, is that look, if they miss one of their timings right here, if, for example, Rumble's Equalizer isn't up, they just don't have the burst damage to take down this Legacy comp. And at this point, with all this snowball, that part of the game might have already passed.
And Legacy, the veteran players that they are, doing a very classic way of countering AoE. So we remember, of course, back to the days when a Mumu jungle kind of ruled the roost there. But you know, one of the classic counters was, you know what, never let them group, just keep split pushing. And Legacy are really kind of performing the hearing. Carter just blows up Christmas trees in the top. Choo-Choo's are, of course, helping.
It's one of those issues where Sudden Fear's comp does so many things well. It's got great wave clear, it's got great team fighting. But as you say, Legacy have pointed out here, if they never group, there's so much 1v1 potential from example, especially Choo-Choo's right here, the recipient of most of the gold in his team. But there's just so many side waves pushing, and Sudden Fear just trying to be reactive across the map while Legacy take every advantage.
Yeah, Tally goes aggressive though. Brawler could be caught out. Egypt will miss the ulti. Good ult though from Brawler to disengage, and Tally will just take the pink ward instead of Janna's life. So Sudden Fear going to stay alive for a little while longer, but really pressed up against their base now. Even Rek'Sai is split pushing. Carbon actually already took out the tier 2 in bottom lane.
He has a Trinity Force for himself, so I mean the amount of damage coming out of Rek'Sai right here, pre-nerf levels and then some, with all this burst potential coming out of any skirmish. So if you can't skirmish the enemy jungler, let alone the mid or top, you're in a bit of trouble.
And you saw earlier Tallywhacker just chunking the mid turret to about half health there. Didn't even bother dodging the Janna Q. Just like, you know what, my support will keep me safe. Not too worried here. Probably actually happy if they did engage. So Legacy really complete control of the map here at this point, and Sudden Fear are struggling just to get out of their own base now.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare the two junglers here, the biggest discrepancy is not necessarily even the gold, but the 3-level advantage from Rek'Sai right here. Able to farm her camps happily, actually 50 CS up right now. Was actually down for a bit in the early game right there, but has been split pushing with that Trinity Force. And the gold, I'm sure, will tell a tale as well. 4,000 gold as well. So you get all those implied gold stats with the level up, and then to double down and have 4,000 gold on top as well. They're just night and day between these two junglers.
Yeah, just the differences in general between these teams were really apparent. Now 13,000 gold or so is the lead, as Legacy have just catapulted themselves to a massively to kick off another OPL week for them. So they'll be happy things started off this way. I think they would have kind of loved a lead like this against the Chiefs.
And look at these pink wards here from Legacy Page Time. They're so aggressive. There's 3 pink wards ahead of the Baron. All 5 pink wards down right here. And Bowmeat face checks and dies instantly.
Yeah, can't catch that one there. Choo-Choo's just eats the jungler there, and that might prompt the Baron for Legacy, with Dragon coming back in 2 as well. In fact, it has Tallywhacker has already started it with the help of Carbon.
The Baron secure coming out of Tallywhacker's Calista. We've talked about it many times right here, but just completely eats neutral objectives. At about 2,500 health, they'll be able to secure this objective, and at least Sudden Fear understand the situation.
Watch the Baron healthy. Oh, ulti going to come in there. Tallywhacker still chugging spears into it. Getting away for the ulti for Zerath. The cousin always to be careful, but Carbon does get it there. Good attempt at Christmas trees. Could be in trouble. Does not into the Leona ultimate. Choo-Choo's just fucking Egypt on top. Christmas trees still alive just for now. The E just missing there, and Christmas trees will walk through the base gates back to safety.
Does survive right here, but the Baron buff's on him. The split push continues. Rek'Sai going to the bottom.
Yeah, Carbon, I think, wanting to maybe go in for the Dragon there as well, though it's not up yet. Never mind. Has to wait a minute for that plane. You mentioned the aggressive boarding. Even the Rek'Sai tunnels are getting very far up some of these lanes.
And now, even if they get the exact correct combination of AoE, CC, and magic damage, it just won't be enough with all the base stats and all the gold down here. 15,000 gold at 25 minutes. There's only been one team in this game so far.
Yeah, and it's definitely been all Legacy here, looking so strong here in this game. The Baron up creek going to help out immensely. Pink Bowman goes a little too far. Carter just jumps on top of his head, and Tallywhacker gets the first kill. Choo-Choo's looking for blood potentially there as well. That tower's dead. And
every single member of Legacy is going to look to pad their stats here.
Yeah, the flash there from Egypt just missing, but Choo-Choo jumps in there, gets ulted back actually, but goes back to a distortion. Very well played there, but a nice ult from Brawler.
Yeah, they're going to take the mid inhib right here, and they're not done.
No, Cardra going to look aggressive. Not even Megan are up yet, but Carbon rotating in to shove the mini wave into the bottom. Will take it out. Now Choo Choo's over the top looking for Christmas trees. Will whiff the E there. And they're going to take it a second and have a Legacy total control of this game.
Yeah, this is the Legacy that we expect. This is the Legacy that represented Oceania at the Wildcards last year. Playing from in front, Sudden Fear, we were so impressed with them last week right here. But Legacy are turning on the style.
Yeah, and Sudden Fear just couldn't quite turn this comp on. Still have a bit of a chance here, but it's a far cry here in this particular game. That gold lead is unbelievable. And
it's going to be one of those games where they're going to be pretty happy with their draft right here. It's not a poor draft. You know, Immunity really struggled with their draft in Game 1 last week. And just could never make back the disadvantage they kind of dug for themselves. But there's a very good team fighting comp right here. It's just been completely undone by pick comp play.
Pretty scary that those 2 inhibitors that they took as well, that was without the 4th dragon, which they now have as well. I think Carbon sort of waddled off there and decided to take it for himself. Maybe it was Tally on the Callisto. It doesn't really matter at this point. Legacy just have so much control of this map. But Choo Choo's even getting aggressive on the moon. Oh, finds a creep instead.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where usually we talk about the timer that the 5th dragon puts on a game, but I'd be very surprised to see this game go another 6 minutes.
I mean, for me, Papa, just to think about the dragon control that Legacy have had, with the way that they played this game, pushing so aggressively and really rotating effectively around the map to get deep vision, for me it was all about the 3rd dragon that they got.
Yeah, it was the 3rd dragon. Of course, it helps your rotation so much having that extra 5% move speed, but to be honest, they had the stranglehold on vision before that point, and to me the main factor is Choo Choo's, just to be able to actually harass a Paps out of his heal at level 2. Then the smart gank came in from Carbon at level 3. It's been so far on the back foot right here. For a Xerath to lose 2 turrets.
Oh my god, that was sick there by Choo Choo's. Does the old school Reginald LeBlanc. They pops into the base, kills you, and then pops right back to the Mimic.
You probably heard me talking about him. Had to just live it up with some more excellent play right here. 707 is Choo Choo's.
Oh, Christmas trees. You're in trouble there. Choo Choo's going in. Does pop the Zonisaur Rumble, but likely not enough. Paps gets stunned there by Ejim, who's going right into the backline as well. Now Pink Bomi forced to flash out. Paps very low. Will go down to Leona support. Now Moon almost going to go down there as well. And Legacy completely broken Sudden Fear's base.
Yeah, the base is in tatters right there. Was a wonderful move coming out from the Leona Solar Flare right there. Hitting perfectly, and this game, it's done.
It's well and truly done. The teleport for Cardra just for a little bit of style towards the end. Legacy might try and pad some of those stats, but that Nexus should fall in due time there. And Legacy going to claim a very dominating win here in their first match of round 2 of the OPL.
Perfect pick comp play coming out there. It's a bit of a mouthful, but just wonderful play on executing a difficult comp against just an amazing team fight comp that was put together by Sudden Fear. It could have been such a different game if that neutral snowball never happened, but in the reality was, without having any jungle pressure, all the lanes were winning, and that's when you know the game's going to go well for you.
Yeah, and we mentioned at the start of the matchup, the feature matchup there in mid, Choo Choo's played pretty well in that game.
Yeah, 8-0-8 was his final. So we'll cue a replay, though, to see some of the great player there. So this is very early into the game right here. It's the 3rd dragon, of course. After this point, a pick comp with 3 dragons, you can be pretty confident they're going to be able to win that game, especially early, because they have so much rotational power. But we'll roll the tape right here. But the dragon already very, very low. It's the person to watch right here, though, is Choo Choo's base. It gets the instant kill onto Graves right there. So much burst damage coming in right there. And then just the consistent CC coming out from Choo Choo's, fighting the front line right here. Able to just disregard the damage coming out from Xerath. Then a lovely Callisto ultimate, of course, launches Ejim into the front. Choo Choo's picks up another one. Most of the kill credit going down to Taliwaka right there. That's just the reality of the AD. But Choo Choo's on point with his CC, on point with their pick comp play was Legacy, and an easy win.
Yeah, really strong stuff though. You know what? Let's see if